I'm your host, Sean McKenzie. Thank you for joining me once again on my channel on data engineering and data analytics. In this episode, we're returning to our Python playlist and we're going to look at error handling. And error handling is very important because it allows you to take a moment when something breaks in your code and you can divert the execution to somewhere else so that you can handle the exception in a more elegant way. So you can give a more descriptive sort of response to the user instead of a whole bunch of computer programming jargon that gets spit out. Or you can have custom exceptions depending on what kind of error that you got. And so error handling is quite important for your programming. So without further ado, let's get to our error handling in Python. Okay, so I've opened the idle shell here for our example, and I'll start a new file and I'll save that and save it as Python errors, and so that we can get going here. And so what we're going to do is I'll create a couple of variables just so you can see. I'll create a number called 123, and I'll create a text variable that says hi, my number is, and then we'll try to concatenate these two, but we'll do it in a way that creates an error that you might see in your application programming. And so this is a kind of an example that you might see in real life. So we'll say our message variable is equal to text plus number, but we're not going to convert that number to a string, which is what we need to do in order to use the plus sign to concatenate the two. And so I'm going to say print message, and then our message should print if it's okay, and it won't if there's a problem. And so if I just run that with no error handling, it just basically the program just breaks, and you can see there's my number. It says text plus number. Can't do that in concatenation because there's an integer, so we need to fix that. And in order to do so, we're going to create a try except block, and that's gonna try to run our commands inside of this. And so we'll take the two lines that we had, and we're gonna indent them so that they're part of the block, and that's inside of our try block. And our catch will that's my .NET programming. Our except block will actually print a different message saying, something went wrong, there was a problem or something like that, because we can catch the error, and therefore if we catch the error, the program continues to execute. It doesn't break like we saw before. And so with this simple try and except, we can press F5, and there you go. It says there's a problem. And so what happened was it got the error that occurred in the try block, and it said, okay, I'm going to throw the execution over to the except, and then that'll give a message. But what if we want to execute some things regardless of what happens in there in the try block? And that's how we use the finally part of this. And so what finally does is it'll execute something regardless of the error before you return everything back to the main execution of the program. So this might be something like closing a database connection. In this case, we're just printing out that we are, some stuff happened regardless of the fact that there was an error. So that code that is in the finally block, that's gonna, execute regardless. And so, like I said before, maybe you'll close your data connections. My channel has a lot to do with data connections between everything. And so that's where you would close your database connection even though you got an error, so that you don't leave database connection open after an error. And so we can go back into our try block and we'll fix that. We'll put str in front of our number, and that'll convert it to a string. And so now it will concatenate when we hit F5, and it'll say, hi, my number is 123, and then you can see the stuff that happens regardless of the error. That in the finally block, that's gonna execute as well. So we could throw another line in here, and we could say print ABC, and ABC being something that we never saw before, that's not in the program. Maybe it's a variable, you misnamed it or something. And you can see that just throws it off onto an error as well. It's kind of a generic error. There was a problem. We don't really know what it is from the message, but we can see that it just threw it off. But the program does execute the commands before your error. So if I switch the operation there and I put message up above, you'll see it gets as far as, hi, my number is 123, and it executes that, and then it hits an error and it throws it into the catch and the finally blocks. So you can see that's how the error handling happens there. Now what's very handy is if you know the kind of error that might come up, then you can give a different message to your users. In this case, we can say a name error, where that's the error that's happening up above, and maybe that's something that's common to your code. It could be a database connection error or something, but in this case it's a name error. So we'll print a different message if we get that error. Otherwise we'll give our regular error, which we saw there. So you can see here it says the variable was not defined, and that's exactly what we wanted, and then it continued to execute after it got that. So you can have several except blocks in there depending on what your particular context might be, and that can be very handy. And then of course after you do your try except finally blocks, you can continue with the other execution of your program or your application, and then you might have other try blocks to handle different situations. And so there you can see if I hit F5, I'm continuing other execution of some other stuff that's unrelated. And that's how you do error handling in Python. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion on how to do error handling in Python. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet, and click the bell when you see the bell. And if you have any questions or comments, put those in the comment section below. Have a great day, have a safe day, and I'll catch you next time.